All right, so let's see what happens here. I'm gonna click on send, and I'm getting an error here. So let's look at this error. And I'm thinking I'm already seeing where the issue is here. So thinking about this here, when I was typing this, I said create object when actually I wanted to get the object. I mean, that's why I'm setting it, right? So I want to get the object. All right, so that should solve that issue. Let's see if we run into anything else. All right, so it looks like we have another error. Now, we ran into a few errors, and that's the reason why I do these videos this way. I'm doing them, and so you can see all the errors come about. So you can see us fixing it. But I think I have a feeling that most of this is correct. However, there's obviously an error. And you get to see me fix them in real time. So let me go over this really quick. Okay, so here's where the error is. And once there's an error, I'm going to hit stop here. And look over this code. Okay, that's where we send the email. Well, this is where we're calling this set mail item. Now we're using the with mail item. And then I close with mail item. And then I'm using the dot here, which is probably the issue because this dot and dot send has to be inside of the with. So let's see if that was the issue. I'm gonna hit, definitely that was a problem. So let's go ahead and try this again. Hit send. And now we have something with the function, which is down here, which I can see right away. This needs a colon there. I'm going to hit stop and let's try it again. And looks like it's working. And there it is. So you saw it just kind of pop up and then close really quick. So let me show you exactly what that did. Let me open up Outlook. So here in Outlook is what it produced. It actually opened up Outlook and it sent it directly to my email. As you see, I have one in the inbox, and here's the mail that it sent. And it sent, this is a header, this is a paragraph, which is exactly what we put up in there. And if you look here, it says, this is my first Word email, and it sent it to the email address that I gave. So perfect, we got it working. Now all we need to do is get this information inside of that message. So the same way I got the subject and the recipient, it's the same way I'm going to get the first name and last name. So I'm going to go create two variables up here called first name as a string and then last name as a string. And then I'm going to set first name down here the same way I did over here. So I'm going to say first name equals txt first name dot text. All right, so that's me pulling these labels, these text boxes that we made earlier. I'm pulling the information from there, and just because we ran into so many errors, I just want to check the names of these really quick to make sure. TXT first name, TXT last, hold on. There you go, TXT last name. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm a little shell shocked from before. So now that I have the first name and last name, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, instead of the title page, I'm going to want perhaps this to be the title. So I'm going to take this header here. So I'm going to right click on the header. I'm going to hit edit header. I'm going to click on this text box here into the developer area, and I want the properties of that, and I call that txt title. So I'm going to want that to be the part of the email that looks like the subject. Maybe I want that as the subject. Regardless, I can keep all this the same. and maybe I want the title. Instead of saying title page, I want that to be this right here. So if I want that to happen, I'm going to have to concatenate or add to what I currently have. So in essence, I'm going to break this into two parts. First, I'm going to put two quotes there. In between those quotes, I'm going to put two add signs there. And in between those add signs, now I have these two separated and these two separated. And the reason why I have to do that is because I'm not going to put a string there. I'm going to put a variable there. So in between these two add signs, I'm going to go ahead and put txt title.text. So whatever's in txt title.text will end up there. And before I move on, I want to make sure this works. As a matter of fact, this is really bad to do, like taking it directly from that. Really, I should take this and put it into a variable. So I'm going to say title. This is where that title's going to go. Let me dim it first. So I'm going to say dim title as a string. And let me put it up here with the rest of these. So now I have a title as a string. And then I will say title equals txt title dot text. And then I'm going to take this title and then I'm going to add it down here. And so you might be asking, well, why did you do all that when you could have just left it that way? Well, because let's say if I had a lot of different areas where I needed to change this one variable, and I don't want to have to actually change the text box. Or let's say if there was another object that needed to go in here as opposed to this title text box. Well, if I were to add that throughout the code, I would have to go through each part of the code and change that. Where it's easier for me to just go ahead and put it as part of a variable, and I can change this object at any time, and that variable will remain the same. So that's one reason to do it. There's tons of reasons, but basically there's other reasons beyond what I'm talking about, which is more error checking and that sort of stuff. But for right now, just understand it's better to create a variable and put whatever you want in that variable than use that variable. So let's actually see if this works. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to get out of design mode. I'm going to hit send. And looks like it did work. Let me go to my email. You'll see it. Here's the email that was just sent, and if you look at this, it looks like nothing changed. But remember what we changed over here. We actually put that in the head and in the title. And if you know anything about HTML, you will understand that won't present itself up here. That's in the code behind. And actually, if this was opened up as an email in a browser, it will show up at the very top bar, but it won't show inside of here. So in order to see that this took place, you would have to right click on this and view the code. And once you view that code, what you will see under the title heading, let me go down here, and if you look at the title, you'll see that says this is the form's email title, and that's exactly what we had here. This is the form's email title. So we now know that all of that stuff works. So now let's get this message into the overall message, like this part right here. So we'll have our head message right here, and that might be something along the lines of what should we put there? I guess we could put the subject matter there, right? So we could put the subject here and then the information down there. So this right here is called txt subject, I believe it is. And we put the txt subject into the subject variable. So I'm just going to go down here inside the body. This is the heading. That's what that says. And I'm going to do the same thing I did up here with the inside of here. I'm going to take those words out, and I want to replace that with two quotes. In between those quotes, I'm going to put two ampersand signs. And in between that, I'm going to put my variable, which is subject. Now in the paragraph, I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to use the txt message box. So two quotes. And let me make sure I have message set here. and I don't think I have message set here. So let me dim message as a string. All right, so now I have message here. It's coming from this area here. Let me put a message here just so we can know that it's going to work. This is the message of the form from the form. And I haven't used my first name or last name yet, but let's go ahead and see this work. Hit stop just so I can make sure everything's working right. Go back here and hit send. And you see it pop up and close again, which is fine. Go back to my email, and here it is. This is my first Word email. This is the message from the form, which is awesome. Now let's go ahead and give the sender or the receiver some information as to who sent this form, you know, based on the name, the first name and last name and that sort of stuff. So in order to do that, we can go ahead and continue on this way, but I think a better way to really see this work is start using the HTML properties that we learned, or that you can learn from here. Almost like, let's look up something like a table. So if I go here and I go here to table, you can see we can actually take these tables and actually maybe put the person's name up in there and their first and last name inside of a table, and make it look pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is reformat my HTML so that way I can have a table inside of here, and so it can use CSS. So I'm going to want the table inside of the HTML, so I'm going to create something down here, and I'm going to put that here, and then I want the table to be here, so I'm just going to type in the word table inside of these brackets, right? The opening and closing brackets, and then I type the word table, just like what we saw in that style. And I want to put a style here, like what we saw on WC3 School. I want to put a style here, and a style is going to make the table a certain height and width. And I have to use the single quotes here, because if I use double quotes, I'm going to be running to the issues here inside of the single quotes. Then I'm going to say WIDTH, and I want that to be 50% of the page. So I'm going to type 50% in between those single quotes. Then I'm going to add a semicolon there, and I want there to be a border. And all of this is CSS. You can go to WC3 School, W3 School, sorry, and you can see how it's using styles here. I'm using the same thing. I'm just adding more styles. Like if you go down here, you can see all these different styles. And again, I'm not going into depth with that. I'm just letting you know this is where that information, you can easily learn more about styles there if you want to continue, you know, pushing forward with this. So the border, I'm going to want that border to be, I'm going to have a border colon, and I want that border to be 1 pixel width. I want it also to be a solid border, and I want it to be black. Now, hopefully I didn't forget my CSS. Let me hit the semicolon. I also want the border to be collapsed, so I'm going to type border collapse. And that border collapse will equal, and instead of saying equal, you say colon in CSS. Think about it that way, and then it's going to equal collapse. Semicolon. Now the next thing I want it to be aligned left, so I'm going to say txt align, and I'm going to put equals or colon left, and the semicolon to close that off, and that should be set. Now, because this is a string, if you get any of this wrong, it just won't show up, but it won't, you know, mess with the code. The only time the code will stop is if you mess with any of the syntax down here that's actually part of VBA. But this right here, we're just making a string that will be translated into HTML. So basically, this is the start of our table from here to here. And we're going to want the close of the table. So in HTML, there's an opening tag and a closing tag. So basically, I got to make the closing tag here. So the way you make the closing tag is you're going to say open and close and slash table like that. That's the closing tag to make this table. And keep in mind, this is just extra, you know, like you already, if you've gotten this far, you've already made your form. Like I'm just showing you more extra things that you can actually put as a part of your form to be able to make it more dynamic using tables and, you know, altering the data that you email or you submit. Now, in this table, I'm going to want to add the user's first name and last name. So I'm going to need a table row and I'm going to need a table header. And so I'm going to go ahead and type that out, and then I'm going to come back and show you exactly what I did. So now if you look what I did here, I created this table. So here's the first part that we did. The second part I did is I added a caption to the table. So I just said sender information, or I can just say user information or something like that as a caption. Then I made a table row, a table header, which is last name. And then after I made the table header for first name and a table header for last name, I then put in a table, in this row here, I put the first name variable, which is the first name variable we have here. And then I put the last name variable in the second one, which is the last name variable we have up here. And then I closed off my table. So if you get all this right, now what we should have in our email is information that people put in here, and we format it a particular way, and we send it off as an HTML body that will then be presented as an HTML page inside of the person's email. Now we don't have to worry about, you know, adding our form or our Word document as an attachment. While that's the easiest way to go about it, it does take memory, and the document may be too big, and you may not even need that much information to send. And some people are maybe afraid to open up, you know, open up extensions or open up anything that's connected to that document. And it could be a problem. You know, they may not even want to have any sort of attachments to the email. So that also scares people when there's an attachment to an email. So let's go ahead and check this out. I'm going to put my name here, L-I-K, and I'm going to put my last name here. And we should see that inside of the email as the person sending it. So I can also put the email there too, somewhere up in here. And it's called recipient. It's the recipient, not email. So I'm going to put that as a recipient. And then I'm going to put my sign there. That way I can get the recipient after the table. All right, so now let me hit send. It opens and it closes, so no errors. Go back here, look at that email. And now you see what we have here. We have the message that the person sent. We have the title. We have another title here. We have my first name, my last name. And we have a table right here. And then we have the person's email that actually sent it or where it was sent from. So that's it, folks. I mean, this was a pretty extensive and detailed video on how to... And so you'll understand why my first video, I didn't really do this, because it's pretty intense how you have to go ahead and open up Outlook. You have to prepare for errors, and then you go ahead and send the recipient and all the other stuff as an email. Now, I can still add the Outlook document as a attachment if I want, but the whole purpose of this is not to actually send an attachment, so that way, you know, all this email goes through. Now, it depends on the user of this. Now, if this is for you to send a whole bunch of stuff, then you don't have to worry about sending a Word document. But if it's for other people to use, then you have to send that Word document so that way they can use the Word document. And when they send it, then the email that they put here will be yours. It'll go directly to you when they fill out that form. So it all depends on how you want to be able to use this. But hopefully this was enlightening for you guys, and understand that if you just want to know how this is done, I wouldn't have done it this way, but I wanted you guys to see completely from scratch how I would do it. Now, there are things that would change because, you know, right now I'm just going through VBA in from memory. Now, I can do a little bit more research and actually make some of this more efficient. But for right now, this should be good for you guys to really understand how this stuff works. And overall, it's not really a lot of code, but I wanted to explain every bit of the code and every bit of the form and how that stuff works. So if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe, hit like, and share the video. And if you want the code, either you can go through the video and copy the code, or you can go ahead and go to the Patreon. And if you are a Patreon, you can download the code. And if you are, I believe it's a silver member or gold member, you can actually have the project. So I'm going to put the project up there as well. All right, so I'll talk to you guys later. And if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below. Until next time, bye.